Welcome to episode 641 of the Aussie Tech Heads, recorded on 18th of July 2019. Aussie Tech Heads is brought to you by startnewcompany.com.au. Register your company fast, easy and direct with ASIC. All documentation provided and held in your account for downloading at any time. If you're an accountant or other professional, you're also able to brand all documents with your company name. Coming soon, ABN, TFN and trusts. Special discount codes for ATH listeners. At the cart, use ATH20 for a $20 discount. And athwebhosting.com.au. Servers operate on SSD drives, immediate activation, SSL certificates, Aussie support, domain registration, easy install of WordPress, Joomla and Drupal. And don't forget, if you have a Fitbit watch, you can get 33% off any Aussie Byte clock faces at the Fitbit app gallery. Use the discount code ATH19. We have back again Australia's two top podcasters. I'm your host, Jason Oakley, and I'm joined this week by Will Tompkinson. Hey, Will.
Don't talk to me about SSD.
Wah, 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 wah.
Bloody
Poor
SSD.
Mr. T. What's your story?
I bought a brand new drive for my computer a month ago, put it in, and it just died tonight.
Oh,
It's like a good one. It's like a Kingston or I can't remember exactly, but it's a good quality one. It wasn't a cheap one. It was a fairly fast one. It was working perfectly. I haven't had a problem with it. It's been on for a month. Went to start the show tonight. Computer crashed. Turned back on. Drive not found.
Epic fail. The most I had a problem with was my mouse stopped working because the batteries had gone flat. But now it's got new batteries, so it's going good.
Well, they have this thing called a mouse with a cord, and it doesn't.
Oh, I hate them. I hate dragging the cord and it gets stuck over there, and I only buy wireless mooses now. Keyboard's okay to be corded, I guess. You don't move your keyboard much, but the mouse, I want to be able to go this way, that way, punch a dude in the face, click, click on his head, all gone.
I gave up on the only time the batteries go flat is when you actually really need them to not.
Yeah, like tonight, just before the show.
I had a really good one. I think it was a Logitech or something, and it had a battery meter app. And it told you what the percentage was and the remaining time was.
Yep, that's nice.
And it lasted a couple of years, but once that died, I've never found another one that does it, so I gave up.
The best one I had was a Microsoft one that was ergonomic, and you could park it overnight on a little tray and it would charge the batteries overnight, then the next day it's good again, but that's the whole thing.
Well, I know some of them now, the mouse mat's actually a key charger.
What? So, where do I get that?
Yeah, so I saw one. I think
I can charge my phone too?
You can't have it because it's Huawei, I think. Oh, it might have been Xiaomi.
Xiaomi's okay. We like them.
Yeah.
Not that Chinese place Huawei. They're no good, but Xiaomi's non-Chinese company is fine.
They're Indian, aren't they?
Xiaomi
or something.
Probably Chinese.
They're Chinese, but I think they've got like a big head office in India or something.
So it's okay. They can't spy on us from there. Them Indians are great.
Stuff, all the Xiaomi reviews, if you look at them on YouTube, they're all Indian.
Ah.
So I'm guessing they must have a big presence in India.
Yep.
Given that one of the headlines I literally just scrolled to is that Xiaomi takes the lead as Indian smart TV market, right? So
there you go.
Random headlines that popped up in front of me.
Facebook is listening to you.
Plodding along. It's getting a bit fresh here. It's getting down to -2, -3 every morning.
Oh, we had some fun. I'm on holidays at the moment. Finished at the end of this week, but had a week and a half off. My daughter's got a friend down, and we went down to Sydney for a couple of days. Went to escape rooms again. Yeah, love the escape rooms. We did 2 of them down there. Heaps of fun. Took them to the Opera House to get some photos there, and then walked all around Darling Harbour and ended up at the Campbelltown Winterland Festival, where they got all these ice sculptures and rides and snow and ice skating rink and heaps of fun stuff. So caught up with one of my friends who has a stall there.
I have to say too, before I forget, that if my audio and camera are bad, you have to forgive me. I am on my laptop, and my my Focusrite audio hub refuses to work, so I can't run my proper microphone. So just
Put up with what you got.
Have to forgive me, guys. Yeah, pretty much.
We'll say 3 Hail Marys for you.
So, say more than that.
Shall we get into some stories?
Oh yeah, why not? Let's do that. See what happens.
Australia's controversial encryption busting laws could put a spanner in the works of government obtaining a bilateral agreement with the United States for cross-border data access. But wow! A coalition of American tech giants and civil liberties organisations warn. The warning comes in a submission from a coalition of large technology companies to the Parliamentary Joint Committee on Intelligence and Security, which is currently undertaking a mandatory review of the Assistance and Access Act that was passed under urgency last year. The coalition includes Amazon, Google, Facebook, Apple, Twitter, and Cloudflare, and US civil liberties organisations. It's claimed US Congress was unlikely to go along with a bilateral agreement with Australia under the recently passed Clarifying Law Overseas Use of Data, or CLOUD Act. How do you like that for an acronym? The CLOUD Act came about as a way to... Somebody got paid $100,000 for that. The CLOUD Act came about as a way to regularise cross-border data access so as to end a multi-year legal battle between US government and Microsoft over email stored on servers in Ireland. Australia is keen on a bilateral CLOUD Act agreement as it would bypass the current awkward and slow Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty, or MLAT, mechanism for access to data on US servers. Encryption is essential to protecting the human rights of privacy and free expression, but with Australia's new Assistance and Access Act of 2018 undermining digital security, the risks and threat to these human rights increase dramatically, the coalition states. The law imperils security protections that dissidents, human rights activists and others rely on, and is particularly a risk for journalists who need to ensure the security of their sources. So the government is shot themselves in the foot by saying, let's make encryption so we can decrypt it and look at anything we want.
The government shot himself in the foot? That never happens. Why would that
Shocking horror.
Happen now? I know, right?
We've never seen anything like that before.
No, I mean, Trump's never done that.
None of them.
Never banned products that have cost their country billions of dollars.
Oh. Oh, wait. Excuse me.
Oh, yeah, Huawei. Yeah, well, I've got a story about that.
What a nice segue. Over to you, Mr. T.
So President Trump's trade war with China is taking a hefty financial toll. Okay, so basically he banned Huawei stuff because they refused to allow him access to the back door. So his excuse was it's a security risk because we can't see what they're doing, so we're banning them. And then every tech company in the country went, excuse me, we use their technology, like that's the only thing that's currently keeping our country running for the most part. Can we sort of, have it back again? And then he goes, I suppose you can have the stuff that's not a security risk. So they allowed everything again. But basically, the trade war in China is taking a hefty financial toll on the US tech industry. The trade group in May warns that in May 2019 alone, tariffs on imported Chinese products cost industry so $1.3 billion. That's 6 times higher than in May previous year, despite 31% decline in imports. So basically, there's more. It goes on saying, that there's led to a total increase just for that month of $250 billion spent on technology elsewhere, that like they spent an extra $250 billion to do what they would have done just because they weren't allowed to use Huawei. So yeah, well done.
So there's another government shooting themselves in the foot. This is an epidemic. Is it spreading?
So but yeah, and it's the same thing, because then all the existing infrastructure that was in place, like 5G routers and whatever that was Huawei, it cost another $930 million to retroactively go back and change all those to a different brand.
Yep.
And now, after this went on for like, what are they going for? Like 2 months tops. They're like, yeah, okay, maybe it wasn't such a good idea. Let's just go back to the way things were before. Which is what
screw the security. Let the Chinese have access to everything.
But it's the complete opposite. The Americans want access to the Chinese product, but they can't, so they call it a security risk. It's like saying,
everything that happens over there, if they say something bad about someone, it's because they want to do it or they are currently doing it, and they blame the other person for the thing that America's doing. Oh, the Chinese are spying on you, the Russians are spying on you, hacking on you. Well, we are too, but the point is,
but
we need a scapegoat.
It's like saying that, it's like saying that Area 51's hiding UFOs, so let's put 10 million people in there and go and storm it. Oh, wait. That's the thing that's happening, isn't it?
That's going to be fun.
Oh, that's just trouble asking for trouble is all that is.
I hope they got some GoPros to film it. I'm stuck over here in Australia. Where's our Area 51 in Australia?
PewDiePie and someone else, Josh, Exploring with Josh, and a couple others. They're live streaming it.
Is PewDiePie going to fly over to America now?
Well, according to his last YouTube thing, that if people are seriously doing it, he's going to go and take a streaming rig and go and do it.
Sweet. I can't wait to see it.
That might be the best thing that happens to him.
Good luck. I hope they get the money to spring you out. He's got tons of money to spring himself out. He's not worried about that.
Yeah. His Patreon supporters will do it for him. I think Mr. Beast is going over there. He's another one of those. But what are they going to do? Like Area 51 itself there's nothing really there. It's all underground. Like, okay, you might storm the fences and you might get into the barracks, but the majority of the base is underground. Like, you're going to see some airplanes and some buildings. Like, that's literally it.
A couple of jeeps with angry guys with guns.
Yeah. I mean, well, yeah, that aside, you're not going to see... The underground bunkers are like 30-foot solid steel, things and concrete and... Like, what are they going to do? It doesn't matter how many people there are. They physically can't get down there.
Oh well, it's all a bit of fun, isn't
it? Could you imagine what happened if 10 million people actually did something constructive? Like overturn the government or something. At least
you don't want to do that.
Well, it couldn't be any worse, could it?
No.
You can't really make things. No government can't be any worse than the government that doesn't like you. I mean, what's the difference?
And those two screw-ups we already talked about the government's doing.
Yeah, that's two of how many?
Millions.
Like even
Brexit.
Going back a couple of weeks to, what was it, South Australia is bringing in the smart licensing thing that Queensland spent millions of dollars on and decided they don't want, and now they kind of have to do it again because now South Australia's doing it, so now there's going to be a crossover.
And New South Wales.
They're bringing it back in.
And the MyGov website that just recently crashed.
It's useless. I don't even know if I know my tax submitted because I got an email saying it's submitted, but since then I have not been able to get back into it. I can't access my MyGov website again. It happens.
Still.
I have to reset my MyGov website like 6 times a year. Like every 2 months, it just completely stops working. It's just such a pain in the ass. But that's the government for you. I mean, can't expect too much, I suppose.
Well, how, speaking of governments, our government said that renewable energy is completely useless and we need to build more coal stations.
You talking about good old, what's his name there from Tassie?
The desert outside Tennant Creek, deep in the Northern Territory, is not the most obvious place to build and transmit Singapore's future electricity supply. Though few in the southern states are yet to take notice, a group of Australian developers are betting that will change. If they are right, it could have far-reaching consequences for Australia's energy industry and what the country sells to the world. Known as Sun Cable, it is promised to be the world's largest solar farm. If developed as planned, a 10 gigawatt capacity of array of panels will be spread across 15,000 hectares and be backed by battery storage to ensure it can supply power around the clock. This is what Australia is doing in Northern Territory for Singapore. We can't do it for ourselves because it's not viable, and couldn't keep Australia going because when the wind don't blow and the sun don't shine, you can't watch the footy. Overhead transmission lines will send electricity to Darwin and plug into the NT grid, but the bulk would be exported via high-voltage direct current submarine cables snaking through the Indonesian archipelago to Singapore. The developers say it would be able to provide 1/5 of the island's city-state's electricity needs, replacing its increasingly expensive gas-fired power. The NT plan follows a similarly ambitious proposal for the Pilbara, where another group of developers are working on an even bigger wind and solar hybrid panel to power local industry and develop a green hydrogen manufacturing hub. On Friday, project developer Andrew Dixon announced the scale of the proposed Asian renewable energy hub had grown by more than a third, from 11 gigawatts to 15. To our knowledge, it's the largest wind-solar hybrid in the world, he says. Across in the Pilbara, the Asian renewable industry proposal has taken another tack. The developers, a consortium of Intercontinental Energy, CWP Energy Asia, wind energy company Vestas and financiers in the Macquarie Group, began with a plan to send energy to Indonesia via subsea cable. That has been dropped in favour of green hydrogen, a shift driven, Andrew Dixon says, by falling costs and growing international and local interest that suggests a much bigger market. An expanded hub proposal released this week says it will spread across a vast area, 6,500 square kilometres, or about half the size of the Greater Sydney, and create 3,000 construction and 400 operational jobs. About 2/3 of the 15 gigawatt capacity will be met with giant wind turbines and 1/3 solar panels. The developers say up to 1/5 of the total capacity is expected to go to industrial energy users in Pilbara, potentially including new and expanded mines and mineral processing. But most of the electricity generated will be used to run a hydrogen manufacturing hub. The hydrogen would be sold domestically and exported, most likely to Japan and South Korea, which have expressed a desire to shift energy consumption in that direction. He says producing green hydrogen at large volumes could open up possibilities such as using it to replace coking coal in steel production. But not for the rest of Australia, because if the wind don't blow and the sun don't shine, how does it work for the other countries if it's...
Well, you look at Germany and Switzerland and Iceland, and they have like 99% of their power by solar.
Yep.
Well, not solar specifically, but hydro, solar, that sort of
combination
stuff.
of renewables.
So, yeah. There's also in UAE, there's massive big salt saline solar farms where they use, instead of using solar energy photovoltaic cells, they use massive mirrors, effectively, with Fresnel lenses in front of them, and they pinpoint the sun up to a tower, and the tower's full of liquid salt. And that liquid salt is run through traditional steam turbines, through water and creating steam to run steam turbines to create power that way. And the liquid salt has enough bulk that it will run for 7 days without sun. Not that you get 7 days in the UAE without sun in a row, but that's why it's designed that way. It'll run continuously even if there's no sun. And there's no talk of something like that over here.
No. Not unless we could export it to Singapore. Then we could do it.
You got that, what's his name, Bob Brown or whatever he is, the Greens guy, who's going, we need to get rid of coal power because it's bad for the environment, and we don't want nuclear because it's potentially disastrous. And then last week he comes out and goes, I don't want to see wind turbines because they look ugly, we need to come up with another form of power. It's like, dude, hang on. you got to have some form of power. Something has to give. You can't not have everything and still have power.
Yeah.
You can't not have solar. You can't not have coal. You can't not have nuclear. You can't not have, wind farms and then expect to still have power. It's like, it doesn't work that way. You've got
We
to have
just get a
something.
bunch of those AAA batteries and link them all up
That's
right
it.
across the Australian bight.
So, it's just...
It's bloody ridiculous, mate.
I have such a hard time explaining to people who don't want to listen that, you don't get solar to reduce the carbon footprint, because our carbon footprint in this country is zero, all but. It's such minuscule. It's 0.0003% or something is, what our entire country is worth if you do the math on it. But it's you do it because you want cheap energy. That's why you do it. You want to be able to actually not have a $1,000 a month power bill.
Yeah, well,
So-
they've done surveys recently and found out that when wind and solar are introduced, that energy prices drop.
But they don't in Australia because they're private. So the
Yeah.
problem is,
It would.
what happens is we get solar on our roof, and then we supplement the energy grid so they can reduce the use on their main power station and reduce maintenance costs, because transformers aren't working as hard and substations aren't working as hard because the power's more localized.
Yep.
So they use less, they generate less power, which costs them less. They require less maintenance, which costs them less. And then they charge more. And the reason they charge more is because we're using less power, so their total dollar figure drops even though their profit increases.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same thing that happens. You look when they declare a drought situation, they put you on heavy water restrictions. Your water bill will actually increase even though you're using less water, because they put the actual consumption price up because they're going to lose out because you're going to use less water, so they charge more for it.
You got to keep them shareholders happy, mate. That's what's
It's just
important in this
pathetic.
country.
Absolutely pathetic. So it's and the internet's another example of that. It does it's the same, works on the same principle. Privatization is good and privatization can work really well, but it needs
Checks and balances.
competition. Like, it needs to be privatized, not corporatized. As soon as you introduce shareholders, that doesn't work. If you have a private company, they can do the same thing for a lot less. Take work, for example. We're a private company. We can sell batteries for half the price of, say, Battery World, who is owned by corporations and shareholders.
Yep.
And actually make more profit, because we're not paying the corporations, we're not paying the shareholders, we're not paying all the follow-on effect that you have that a big corporation has. The small companies can actually do things cheaper and still make decent profit margins out of it. Whereas big companies, it costs them less to do stuff, but they have to charge more because there's more people to pay.
Yep.
So
Stupidest idea. Only the shareholders win.
well, at the end of the day, that's pretty much,
For everything.
like, that's what I like in if you've watched Ready Player One, where he's basically at the board meeting, and they say, "Oh, the shareholders aren't going to be happy." He's like, "I'm not here to make the shareholders happy. I'm here to make the shareholders rich."
Yeah.
That's basically what it comes down to.
That's it. Over to you. Any stories for you?
Just sort of talking about big corporations and CEOs and whatever. So JPMorgan, he's known for a lot of things, but basically back in 2017, the CEO publicly announced Bitcoin as a currency for criminals, saying the banking boss believes that popular digital currency is increasingly being used for criminals such as drug deals. And then in July 9th, 2019, US Customs just seized a ship owned by JP Morgan after authorities found $1 billion worth of drugs. So,
isn't it ironic, don't you think? A little too ironic.
Basically what he's saying is, I prefer cash, I think is what the...
Untraceable bills, non-sequential, thanks.
Non-sequential dollar bills, yeah. Yeah, I think that's basically what he's getting at. So Either that, or he actually discovered that it is quite secure and it is actually really good for doing that sort of thing, and then he started trading in Bitcoin. So I just find the irony in that is very typical of banks, but corporations, that sort of thing. Where you can't do that because we don't like it. We can do it, but you can't.
No. He should start his own. Call it like Morgan Bucks or something.
Yeah, or do Facebook.
Yeah,
what's Facebook's one?
Libra,
whatever that's Libra
Fleur. I mean,
yeah. That's I was reading I don't know if I can find it on short notes. I was reading an article about how the banks are concerned because Facebook's not really known for its high quality privacy, so it's concerned about how it's going to handle the privacy around their coin.
Yep. I'm
like, really? That's your concern? Out of all the things that's happening, that's what you're concerned about?
They recently got fined $5 billion for privacy violations. They're like, what, they drop in? But hang on, I got that down the back of the couch, I think.
Yeah, that's it. US lawmakers troubled by Facebook's Libra due to pattern of failing to keep consumer data private. So the US lawmakers are concerned that a private company can't keep its customers' data private, but the US government doesn't care that it can't do it.
No.
As long as the private company doesn't have a problem doing it.
And none of those insurance companies that keep getting hacked and leaking all your data, and other online merchants and stuff who... There's just... All your data's out there, your social security number, name, address, sex, favourite ice cream flavours and stuff. It's all out there. It's all been taken. Nothing is private. So it's probably Facebook's view. I mean, everything's out there, so why should we be private? Because it's not going to be any different.
Well, yeah. I mean, ultimately, that's what... The thing is, they're not necessarily wrong. And this is the other thing. Like, I saw some tweets about how this is being handled. I'm like, but hang on. At the end of the day, they're private. They're still okay. They're got shareholders, or whatever, but effectively, they're still a private company. And their terms of service states that we can do whatever we want with your information. Amber Mac.
That's one of the things Facebook. I've been thinking about. They've got this new app that can make your photo age like 20 years or something, and everyone's like, oh my god, the privacy, it says that they can take your photo and use it anywhere and any way they want. Yeah, so can Facebook, so can Twitter, so can Flickr, so can Google Photos. Instagram. All of them say, this is our photo now, we can do whatever the F we want with it, and you can't do shit about it. And we had all this kerfuffle when Flickr was updated, the Flickr terms and states, oh, we own your shit. And WhatsApp owns your stuff, and Instagram owns your stuff. Everybody owns all your stuff. It's not yours. You've given it away for the right to be able to look pretty or have a puppy dog ears come out the top of your head. This is nothing new, but everyone's like, oh my god, the face aging app is doing this horrible thing. It's like everybody is.
Apart from a few companies like the ones that do the royalty-free or the royalty photos and, stuff like that where they have some form of actual, they've got sort of a need to keep that private, so because they're based on royalty sales, so they obviously want to sell that product. But basically, any private company, they want as much information out of you as they can. That way, they can market to you. At the end of the day, that's the only. And here's the other thing you got to understand too: when an app asks you for permission to use your camera or your contacts or your phone, it's generally because it needs that to function. Like if it's an app that takes your photo and does something with it, it needs the permission to use the camera.
Yep.
It takes photos. The app is very limited if it doesn't take photos and you don't give it permission to use the camera.
There's two
Yeah,
reasons for this terms and conditions being in thing. One is they want to do advertising, so they'll have a picture of the lovely Will here with his puppy dog ears and his tail, and they can say, look, this could make you beautiful. So they'll use that without your permission. Who cares? You get famous, isn't that cool? The other one is that technologically they have to replicate your image, the data for your image, on multiple servers around the world through a CDN and other websites.
Yeah.
So that your image is secure, because you don't want to just store it on Bob's desktop computer, because when it shits itself, you've lost your stuff. So to be able to digitally replicate that around, that's what this terms of service covers, so that they can put this on all the servers around the world. It can get served fast to somebody in Africa. You've got a friend over there. It gets served fast to somebody in England. It can get served fast to somebody in New Zealand because it's on their New Zealand server. But it's been digitally replicated, and you give permission for them to reproduce your picture in any way, shape, or form, so that they can make your system work.
And not only that, it sort of also limits the damage. If they get hacked, they're like, end. You know, like...
Everybody's getting hacked. It's the latest trend. Get into it.
There's no expectation of privacy, so... You know. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, you've got to understand there's a reason, you know, it needs to access... It usually says contacts and storage, because contacts and storage work on the storage medium and they're considered the same thing. It often uses the contact so that it can send something through SMS or through Facebook to somebody. You know, there's a reason it's accessing the data on your phone, or the sections of your phone. It's not necessarily reading your data, and it's just literally because it needs those particular things to function.
If you want to be able to contact your friend using WhatsApp, you don't want to have to log in through Facebook to get your friends list. It looks at your contents on your phone, the contacts on your phone, and says, here's all these numbers for your friends. We found them here, so you can send a picture over to Will or send him a private message or something like that. That's why it needs contacts, so it can send it to him. Otherwise, you're going to spend all day writing down all your friends' phone numbers, typing them in one at a time to WhatsApp. Yes, I would like Bill. Some people call you Bill, don't they? Like Will to have access to this.
Only people that forget my name.
I want Glenn. Well, Danger Will Robinson. You want to do Glenn Goodman? Suddenly you have to have his phone number, type it all in manually. You don't want to do that. Just say, here's access to all my friends. Tell me who's on there. Oh, Will's on there. I'll send him a stupid emoji. He loves that shit.
Yeah,
150 new emojis being launched this week. Woo!
Yay. I haven't figured out the three that I use now. I do have to admit, I love the Emoji Movie. It's hilarious.
Is it? I haven't seen it.
It's so well done. It's so clever. But yeah, look, basically, at the end of the day, you exist on the internet regardless of whether or not you want to, unless you don't use the internet. Basically, is what it comes down to. You exist on it.
Or a phone.
And yeah, that's it. And with all the new facial recognition software, okay. Now here's the other thing. Take the Northern Territory, Darwin, or whatever it is they're using. They're rolling out and trialing facial recognition software. So if they're just trialing it now, how long have they had it installed, and how long have they been using it to get it reliable enough to the point where they can publicly trial it? This is not new. They've been using this stuff for years.
Facebook auto detects me and my friends really well.
Well, what was that? 9-10 years ago to do that.
Google Photos does it. You take a photo of you and me, put it on Google Photos. Suddenly it goes, hey, that's your mate Will, isn't it? You go, yes, that is so awesome. You knew it was Will. Even with the puppy dog ears.
Yeah, and this is the thing you got to understand, that by the time you found out the technology exists, it's been in use for a long time.
Just ask China.
It's, you know, and now the other thing is they're now using drones to spy in backyards and stuff like that. And they're recording data they find and whatever. Which
They'll
I find
find
hilarious,
your marijuana.
if you fly a drone in your backyard, they come and raid your house. If they fly a drone over the fence into your backyard, it's perfectly legal. Go figure out how that works.
Then they come and raid your house again.
Yeah. Well, you heard what they're doing in New Zealand with because of the false flag of the shooting they had a couple months ago. They're basically now, if they even remotely assume that you have an unregistered firearm in your property, they just burst in and search the house. No warrant, no nothing.
Oh, jeez.
Yep.
It's like, not another example of governments doing something wrong.
Hey?
That's not another example of governments doing something wrong, is it?
It's just stupid. And they wonder why people are prepared to shoot the cops. I would too. You got no right to be in my house. It's my house. Get out. Unless I specifically call you and engage your services, get out of my house. So, you have no right. But speaking of governments, I guess technically this classifies as a government. A Saudi Arabian prince has been caught in... This has nothing to do with tech, but I just couldn't pass up the story because it's absolutely hilarious. A Saudi Arabian prince has been caught in an international bacon trafficking scandal involving hundreds of members of the Saudi royal family, reports the Jerusalem Herald. Prince Adil al-Otyabi is actually being detained by Israel authorities after trying to smuggle over 2,000 kilos of undeclared various pig meat products. The 2,000 kilos of processed meat, originally declared as veal meat, was found to be suspicious by local authorities, who eventually realised the meat was, in fact, pig, a delicacy which is under heavy scrutiny by the country's laws and makes pig farming a crime in most regions. Saudi authorities have not taken to the news kindly, as Saudi Arabia's Minister for Foreign Affairs has accused Israel of framing a member of the royal family in a disloyal attempt to attack the reputation of the Saudi family, and is asking for the immediate release of Prince Adel and his 17 bodyguards. Prince Adel, because they did him a lot of good.
Yep.
Prince Adel, who is renowned for his outlandish ways and extravagant parties, made international headlines last year after rumours spread on social media that he's offered $1 million to Kim Kardashian for an evening with the celebrity.
Didn't they make a movie about that?
I think so. But, I just thought that was absolutely hilarious that this Saudi Arabia prohibits the import, use, or possession of pork, as pork is held to be contrary to the tenets of Islam. I just find it absolutely hilarious that not only was he caught with, having a bacon sandwich, but it's like 2 tons of bacon.
That's a lot of yummy bacon.
That's a lot of bacon. It's
contraband bacon.
It's like, who would have thought, of all the things you could possibly think of, black market smuggling and... It's not something that... it makes sense, but it's not something that comes to mind.
I wonder how many people black market smuggled Huawei products into America. Shame on you.
So, I don't know. It's funny.
Jeff Bezos is investing much of his Amazon fortune in the development of space technologies through his aerospace company Blue Origin. Why? Because I think it's important, he said. I think it's important for this planet. I think it's important for the dynamism of future generations. It's something I care deeply about, and it's something I've been thinking about all my life. We humans have to go to space if we're going to continue a thriving civilization. We've become big as a population, as a species, and this planet is relatively small. We see it in things like climate change and pollution and heavy industry. We're in the process of destroying this planet, and we have sent robotic probes to every planet in the solar system. This is the good one, so we have to preserve this planet. To do that, we'll require being able to live and work in space. We send things up into space, but they're all made on Earth. Eventually it'll be much cheaper and simpler to make really complicated things like microprocessors and everything in space, and then send those highly complex manufactured objects back down to Earth, so that we don't have the big factories and pollution generating industries that make those things now on Earth, Bezos says, and Earth can be zoned residential.
Yeah, I'm not even going there. There's so many things wrong with that. Sorry. Well, I like the idea of looking up in the sky and just seeing a massive big cloud of pollution because the industry's up there now. That seems much better.
And a big Amazon sign across the moon.
Yeah, well, they reckon Coke was going to be the first to do that. They reckon Coke were trying to buy the rights for that.
We're still waiting.
No. Speaking of the moon,
yep.
I'll give you a quick rundown on a lady called Margaret Hamilton. Now, she's a software engineer. She was born August 17th, 1936. She's an American scientist, an assistant engineer, and a business owner. She was director of the software engineer division of the MIT Instrumentation Laboratory, which developed the onboard flight software for NASA, Apollo space program. And in 1986, she founded Hamilton Technologies in Cambridge, Massachusetts. The company developed the Universal System Language based on their paradigm of development before the fact for systems software design. She's published over 130 papers, procedures, and reports, 60 projects, 6 major programs. She's one of the people credited with coining the term software engineering. She's received the Presidential Medal of Freedom by Barack Obama for her leading work on the onboard flight software for NASA's Apollo moon landing. Now, I'll get to why this is relevant in a sec, but when you hear of most of these terms, NASA, software engineer, computer developer, MIT instrumentation, you don't think of a lady, especially in the 40s or the 50s, 60s, 70s, sort of, it's sort of very, this goes against what you have set in your brain. But she actually was incredibly critical. She was the lead Apollo flight software designer. One of the critical moments of the Apollo 11 mission, the Apollo guidance computer, together with the onboard flight software, averted and aborted the landing on the moon. 3 minutes before the lunar lander reached the moon's surface, several computer alarms were triggered. The computer was overloaded with interrupts caused by incorrectly phased power supplies on the lander's rendezvous radar. The program alarms indicated executive overflows, meaning the guidance computer could not complete all of its tasks in real time and had to postpone some of them. The asynchronous executive designed by J. Halcombe was used by Hamilton's team to develop the asynchronous flight software. Because of the flight software system error detection and recovery to system-wide kill and recompute, form a safe place restart approach to the snapshot. So basically, the priority alarm displayed and interrupted the astronauts' normal displays to warn there was an emergency, giving the astronauts a go, no-go decision to land or not to land. They checked the software, found the fault. They shouted a go-go situation and continued the landing. But you got to remember, this is the early days of computers. Like the computing power on that space module was, you'd be hard pressed to find something these days that actually has that little amount.
Even my watch has got much more power than that.
Well, even an 80s Casio smartwatch, like calculator watch, game watch, probably had more processing power. Like you've got to keep in mind that this was predominantly, even though there was some digital componentry, it was still predominantly an analog-based system. It was still a 1 and 0 based system, a yes and no based system, and it wasn't displaying error codes on a screen saying, hey, this is the fault. It was displaying error codes by showing a sequence of flashing lights in a certain series, and then it was up to the astronauts and NASA command to interpret those as to what the fault was. And the reset sequence was flicking a bunch of switches in various directions to reset.
Have you tried turning it off and on again, Neil?
Literally, that's literally
Mr. Armstrong.
That is literally the exact in-place procedure to reset the system. Was when you're about to land on the moon in the middle of space with nothing around you, you have to turn your computer off and then turn it back on, and then wait for it to reboot.
Blow a bit of the dust out of. It's probably got some moon dust in the cartridge.
I mean,
put it back in.
Can you imagine how insignificant you are the second you flick that power switch off.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. There is nothing else. You have no guidance. You have no control. You have nothing. That system is dead for the 3 minutes or whatever it takes to reboot. Like, it's bad enough when your computer crashes and you go, oh, that's a pain. Like, yeah, okay, not a big deal. You're going to have
10 seconds to reboot.
But,
if you got good SSD.
This thing literally is the only thing keeping you alive, and you're about to turn it off.
Yep. Everybody hold your breath.
Yeah. It's the definition of, like, just...
brown pants time.
But the reason I mentioned that is that, obviously, we're coming up to the... wow, browser, come on. Oh, you would reload the page right as I click on the tab, wouldn't you? You useless...
Meta refresh is the worst thing.
Hey?
Meta refresh is the worst thing. All the news website put it on every page. You must reload to new ads every minute.
Oh, it's so bad. It does it worse when you click off the tab then back onto it. If you're on the tab, it only reloads the ads. If you're off the tab then come back, it reloads the entire page. And the autoplay video plays every time. Despite the fact you've clicked do not play.
Yep.
But anyway, so basically the entire source code from Apollo 11's flight computer software was recently posted to GitHub, a collaborative platform for developers, and it's filled with tons of hidden Easter eggs, which I think this is the coolest part about this story, including jokes, a Shakespearean quote, and a reference to the Black Power movement going on at the time. Apollo 11's original source code was developed by the Institute of Technology, as we just discussed, in the 60s. The code was the backbone of the Apollo guidance, which the astronauts used to land on the moon. Source code was actually made available online for the first time in 2003, when technology researcher Ron Berkeley transcribed the original scanned hard copy pages that MIT made. However, the source code started getting significant attention only recently, after a former NASA intern, Chris Gary, posted the actual source code on GitHub rather than a scanned and recompiled version. Since then, hundreds of programming enthusiasts have been sifting through the code and highlighting Easter eggs. And just so you understand how much this code people have sifted through, there's a photo of MIT scientist Margaret Hamilton next to a hard copy stack of the AGC source code, which is in foolscap. That's on the. If you want to see it, so you can actually look it on her Wikipedia page. She's literally standing next to the what do I use over there? Foolscap?
Letter
I think
size.
it's foolscap. It's a long skinny one.
Yep.
She's standing next to stacks of those in binders, probably 6 inches thick, and there's like 24 of these binders stacked end on end, and yeah, it's a foot above her head height. This is like the original hard copy of this code.
It's ridiculous.
And
amazing.
Oh, it's great. And it's so basically the programmers and developers often leave comments throughout the code, as everyone does. Especially when you've got multiple people working on coding, so you can leave notes and whatever, so people know what's going on. However, it's obvious that IT developers did more than just that. They added playful messages, puns, and pop culture references. For example, the name of the ignition file in the code is "Burn Baby Burn," a phrase popularised by a disc jockey Magnificent Montage. That was a reference to the ongoing Black Power movement at the time. We might not have been out on the streets, but we did listen to the news, and the two biggest news stories were Vietnam and Black Power. So the latter including the H wrapped around his exonerations to Burn Baby Burn. It was 1967 after all. And there's actually lines. So line 39 through 44 is nothing but commented. And it's like, it traces back to 1965 and the Los Angeles riots, and was inquired by district. Like, that actual whole paragraph I just read is literally actually in there as just the information as to where they got that from. In a block of code, a few hundred lines down, the developer put in the comments, "Hello there" in the first line, and then "Goodbye again soon" in the last line. And that was like, if you look in there, it's like line 900 and something, and it's got hello there. Then it goes through and does a temperature reading. Then it does a battery bank check, and then it does fires a gyros for stabilization, and then it does a few other bits and pieces. You can read the code, and then the last line is goodbye, come back again soon. Like, it's a loot code,
Thank you, come again.
There's another one called Pinball Game Buttons and Lights. It's a reference to a popular arcade game at the time, but it's the one that runs all the keyboard and the display lighting for the warning code.
Yeah.
So it's just called that. There's another one in there, the coding from the quote from William Shakespeare. It will be proved that the face that thou hast been, it will be proved to thy face that thou hast men about thee that usually talk of noun and verb and such abominable words as no Christian ear can endure to hear. Henry VI, Act 2, Scene 4. Like, just randomly, middle of the code. Like, and there's stuff in there where there's like, this line's temporary, please remove.
But it wasn't.
Clearly, it wasn't. There's also one in here about, what's this one? Astronaut, please crank this silly thing around. It's one of the manual guidance handles. The code for it's called please crank this silly thing around. Terminate, proceed. Then the next line's like proceed to see if he's lying. Enter, initialize loading radar. Post jump to burn baby burn, off to see the wizard. So yeah,
they had some good drugs back in the 60s, man.
So I just find this is hilarious. Like, we think of Easter eggs in games as predominantly in games is where you think of them as,
and DVDs.
Well, that's it. Yeah, the things that are intentionally put in to be found generally later on, not the first time through. The irony here is that it's been 50 years before these Easter eggs got found, which I think is a great testament to the the faith they had in the coding. Like, could you imagine if one of those lines somebody forgot to comment it out, instead it became a subroutine instead of a commented line.
Yeah.
You could just imagine like how you would feel if after they got back to Earth and they ran through the coding, they found that you put that line in there.
Yeah. Well, you remember they had that flight simulator in Microsoft Excel for years, and they ended up having to take that out because they were worried that it could cause some bugs somewhere else in the program, and they wouldn't have really good quality program. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the bug. But that was like the bug in the original Encartas, Microsoft Encarta, back in, when was it, 95 or whatever, it came out on CD, the first CD version of that. It didn't matter what you clicked on. If you followed
related stories or something.
Yeah, say you click on clown, and the next thing that popped up was clown was, comedy or something. You click on that. No matter how, if you kept clicking on that top link, it would always come back to sex. Every single time.
It's supposed to be Wikipedia or something like that. Always ends up with psychology, I think. You just keep clicking on the top link in every single article, no matter where you start. Something like that, anyway.
Have you seen the, speaking of Wikipedia, have you seen the Wikipedia, the downloadable Wikipedia?
How much do you get?
It's basically everything except the pictures.
Oh, okay. I downloaded one several years ago for Mum and Dad called Kiwix, Kiwix, I think it was, as a cut-down version of Wikipedia so that they could have some sort of encyclopedic thing.
Yeah, no, you can literally go to the Wikipedia. It's actually on the Wikipedia webpage. You can go to Wikipedia and just search for database download.
Yep.
And it's literally a data dump of all the text. It doesn't have the graphics, obviously, because that would just be stupid insane. But it gives you a few different programs that you can use and different readers, like a lot of the ebook readers and stuff. You can download it specifically for that and
Okay.
whatever. You can download it in different languages. You can get the multi-stream versions. I mean, it's pretty big. Like it's not tiny. But it all comes zipped in. Obviously,
Don't do it on Australian ADSL. Only NBN.
It doesn't actually say how big the current. I don't think it used to tell you how big the current
version
was, but I can't find it here anymore. Last time I checked, it was you could fit it on a. I think it was 16 gig. I think it fit on a 16 gig thumb drive.
Oh, not bad.
Something like that. I can't remember now. It's been a while, but yeah, you can choose to download it in like 1 gig sections if you want or whatever. But it goes way back to the earliest version in 2005. You can actually download it's right back there if you wanted to.
Nice.
I just thought it was interesting if you're off grid or you're somewhere where you don't have access to the internet, but you still want reference material. Short of carrying a box of encyclopedias around, you can fit that on a thumb drive, and you can use your USB to go ports and whatever to run a thumb drive off your phone if you're a tablet.
Or store it on your phone.
Which, yeah, well, it depends on how much you bring on your phone. But yeah, I thought it was. I know it's up into the terabytes now apparently.
Ah.
Download. It doesn't say all revisions, all page. Oh, okay. It's if you use all revisions. You don't need all revisions.
No, I don't care about that.
There we go. Current revisions only. No talk. No user pages. No commenting. It's about 14 gig compressed. Expands out to over 58 gig decompressed.
That's pretty good.
So you need a 64 gig cut, which is not. I mean, a 64 gig SD card's only $18 or something.
Yeah.
Not that much. So, mind you, you can download it through torrent as well. I would love to know how long that would take to download. That's insane. What's 14 gig? I wonder if I can 14 gigabit or gigabyte. No, gigabyte. Capital GB. Download time on 20 small megabit a second. See if Google can figure that out. This could be interesting. There you go. 14 gigabit. Download calculator. Oh, yeah, great. It wants to actually test your download speed.
No thanks. Ain't nobody got time for that.
So
I'll finish off a couple of stories. If you've got one or two, let me know. Starting in Firefox 70, Mozilla aims to have the browser report if any of your saved logins are found in data breaches. This will be done through their partnership with Have I Been Pwned data breach website. Mozilla is slowly integrating their independent Firefox monitor service, the new Firefox Lockwise password manager, directly into Firefox. Mozilla is also considering premium services based around these features in the future. As part of this integration, Firefox will scan the saved login names and passwords and see if they are exposed in a data breach listed on Have I Been Pwned. If one is found, Firefox will alert the user and prompt them to change their password. This new feature will only work, though, for data breaches that expose passwords when the password was saved prior to an associated data breach. When a saved login is detected as being part of the breach, Mozilla will add an alert icon next to the account profile in Firefox Lockwise, and clicking on the saved login will open a subpanel that displays an alert that passwords were leaked or stolen as part of the data breach. Mozilla also plans to on displaying the stats for the amount of data breaches your logins are involved in the browser's upcoming protection report. This protection report will eventually be available at the About: Protections address. And one of the larger tenants in certain Sydney data centre is digital firm studio Animal Logic, which employs plenty of techies, buys rackloads of storage kit from Dell, and rents fat pipes to move data to make its movies. And now Sydney will get another similar driver of IT buys and developer of IT talent, thanks to news that Disney-owned visual effects company Industrial Light and Magic has established a studio in the Harbour City. The facility will ramp up fast. ILM Executive Creative Director and Rob Bredo and its executive Luke Hetherington today said they'll start hiring immediately to complete post-digital visual effects for Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. As that flick is due to debut in late December 2019, jobs should flow fast. New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian has even put her name on the pledge of more than 500 local jobs, albeit without a time frame. To help things along, the Government of New South Wales offers a 10% tax break and found $6 million, matched by ILM, to establish training programs to build specialised post-digital and visual effects skills for local workers. The program is literally called Jedi Academy. ILM's arrival will mean a decent amount of tech spend to go with the skills development. Real estate types will get excited too, as the studio plans to find a new HQ beyond Fox Studios.
Nice.
New Star Wars being done in Australia.
Take about 2 hours to download that file too.
There you go.
Yeah, look, I think apparently it's actually getting a lot of people excited.
Yep.
The new movie, so we'll see. I mean, I've watched. I don't know. There's something about the nostalgia, I think, of the original ones. It doesn't matter how good the new ones are; they're just not the original ones.
Yeah, I think the best one I liked was Rogue One.
But I mean, there's so many spin-offs too. Like, there's all your Clone Wars, and like there's all those spin-offs,
origin stories.
Yeah, and it's sort of like
now Disney's got it. They're going to milk it dry, man.
Well, that's what Disney do, isn't it? Really.
Yep.
I mean, they've got 8 princesses, and basically they're all exactly the same person with different coloured hair. You know, come on. So.
Any more stories?
Yeah,
for
I
you?
don't know. It's There's one I was just trying to find. I don't know if I can quickly find it. I was reading. You can buy robot lawnmowers, but they're fairly limited in what they can do, and you've got to have them all sort of programmed with the yard and stuff like that. But I've been looking at, there's open source ones coming out now based on the Arduino that literally is a combination of Wi-Fi signal strength. They use GPS headings, they use dead reckoning, they use sonic sensors, and they can actually work out whereabouts in your yard they are. They know what they've mowed, what they haven't mowed. They can automatically wait till the grass gets to a certain length and then mow it. And this is all open source now. Like, these robotic lawnmowers were, $2,000 and $3,000 and $4,000 or $5,000 for something to mow your lawn.
Yep.
With a 3D printer and a $16 Arduino, and go to Cashies and buy yourself a couple of cordless drills and use the motors out of them, you can literally make a lawnmower now that will do your lawn far better than any of the commercial ones will. Nice. Do
you know anyone that's going to give that a go?
Arduino, I think it's called. Yeah, if only, I've got, I was thinking if I've still got the box here. I don't, I've taken it down to the shed. I've got the, all the components actually sitting here waiting to go. I've got all the motors and all the Arduinos and all the sensors and everything actually ready to go. I've just got to get the time to actually do it now.
Some assembly required.
But, well, yeah, it's not. It's so much simpler. It's because all the coding's already been done. You just grab the sections of code that you want to grab and put it together, and you can make all your sensors work and make it do everything you want to do. It's amazing what you can do now.
We look forward to your YouTube video.
But it's just the advent of the well, as you know, the Raspberry Pi for making Octahub and the Arduinos and just all these micro PCs and micro programmable units now. It's just absolutely insane what's available to the average consumer in terms, or the average hobbyist, I guess.
Yep.
Even go back 5 years, if you wanted to build something, you had to buy all the components that would work with all those other components because you're locked into proprietary componentry generally. But it's funny, the open source community has done a complete flip. I remember, go back 20 years, 25 years when shareware was a thing and it was designed to get people into something, like generally with games. You'd give them the shareware version, like Doom, the entire Doom 1 effectively was shareware.
Yep.
And they got people hooked on it and they released Doom 2 and made you pay for it. Or Duke Nukem 3D was shareware for the first 3 levels and then you had to pay for the rest of it, Open source wasn't really a thing. And then Linux came about to the average person, and Linux was open source, and it's taken 15 years for that open source concept to come out of software to hardware to the point where you look at the Arduino chip that was actually designed, developed, manufactured by Arduino, but after they did that, they released all the patents and all the source code and all the information on it so that Chinese manufacturers can have a field day and go and, make copies of this device without breaching any sort of guidelines. And the thing is, because of that, you can buy this incredibly complex and powerful machine for a few dollars.
Even Microsoft's embracing open source now.
Well, as much as Microsoft can.
Yeah.
And it's really the thing is the follow-on effect from that is if I go to I buy my Arduino off an eBay seller, I'm like, oh, I need to get this sensor and I need to get this sensor and I need to get some of these cables and I need to get this screen. Like, because it's all open source, this one guy can have a dozen different options for all this stuff, and it's all going to be compatible, it's all going to work, it's all going to fit.
Yep. And
you can buy it all from one place. Could you imagine if that was still trying to be in the closed infrastructure where this Arduino model worked with this sensor and that was it, because this other sensor didn't work with it properly because it worked with this one.
Yeah.
it just wouldn't work, I just find it amazing now how people are finally proving that the open source model is a profitable model.
Yep.
Because Arduino are still going ahead in leaps and bounds. They're still developing new versions. They're still making updated systems. And if you want the cutting edge and the most recent, you buy the Arduino one, or guaranteed to be the most stable and most reliable, you buy the Arduino one because that's still the original and still the best one. If you're just mucking around on prototyping and developing and not sure what you want to do, you buy a $16 one instead of a $30 one because if you fry it, which let's face it, you're going to fry half a dozen of them before you figure it out, it's not as painful.
Yep.
And then once you get your system up and developed and to the point where it's functioning exactly the way you want, you take that $16 one out and you put your $30 Arduino in there and the system's good to go and reliable, So
yeah. Sounds great.
I just love that concept, but it's right across 3D printers. Like you can buy the components to make your own 3D printers. So you don't have to buy one. You can
3D print one.
You can go to a friend's place who's got a 3D printer and get 3/4 of your printer printed.
Yeah.
Just the amount of stuff that in the last 5 years has just gone absolutely insane with what's available now. It's fantastic. It's the greatest time for tinkerers and makers and people for freedom of expression who want to have the ability to say they have the idea of the end product in their mind, but they don't have the nous or the concept on how to get to that end product. You can almost always shortcut there now because somebody's probably done mostly what you want to do already.
Yep.
So it's
Plug
a
it all together.
fantastic idea. So just sort of throwing it out for people who aren't aware, this exists in the world now. And if you are creative, and even if you're curious about it, or you want to get started in electronics, or you just want to have fun building stuff, it's definitely the way to go. You get yourself a 3D printer, cheap $150 3D printer. It's going to do 90% of the stuff you want it to do. Or if you're brave, spend, you can buy the screens, you can buy the control boards, you can buy the cabling, you can buy all this stuff separately. You can assemble it into your own printer.
Yep.
It's cheaper. You can build a printer for about $60 now. So, but if you've got a printer and you've got a few basic tools and a computer, the world is literally your oyster now.
Yep.
It's amazing. All right, I'm going to shut up.
Thanks for listening to the Aussie Tech Heads Show, broadcast weekly. We can be found at facebook.com/Aussie Tech Heads, twitter.com/Aussie Tech Heads, and youtube.com/Aussie Tech Heads. Email us, Glenn, Will, and Warlock at aussietechheads.com.au. You can hear Aussie Tech Heads on aussietechradio.com 24/7. Back-to-back play of some of the best tech-related shows from around Australia and New Zealand. New shows added each Friday. And we'll catch you next time. Glenn needs another holiday. We'll see you around. Bye.
See ya.